Phoenix is the largest city in the United States of America without Amtrak service.
Back then, taking the train to Phoenix meant a frustrating detour. Passengers dropped miles outside the city with no real connection in sight. One writer even joked, "It felt like Phoenix didn't want us to arrive." But now, that could finally change. Arizona's governor just unveiled a major announcement toward restoring Amtrak service through a Phoenix-Tucson rail line. If it moves forward, trains would once again stop right at the city's historic Union Station, something that hasn't happened in over 25 years. So, how far has the plan come? And what could it mean for Arizona's future? Let's break it all down, right here on today's episode of Great Trainspeed. Let's take a moment to rewind. Back in 1888, Phoenix launched a streetcar system that helped shape the city's early urban development. It wasn't just a novelty. These rails connected neighborhoods, businesses, and communities in a way that set the foundation for a more connected city. But by the 1940s, that system had vanished. A devastating fire and a lack of investment sealed its fate, and Phoenix pivoted sharply toward buses and car-centric planning. By the time the population topped 1.3 million in 2000, the cracks in that approach were clear. That year, residents approved the Transit 2000 plan, marking a major shift in mindset. The result? Valley Metro Light Rail. And unlike many new systems, it didn't stumble out of the gate. Ridership exceeded expectations early on, and the network has steadily expanded ever since. Today, it plays a central role in Phoenix's evolving transit landscape. But the city's ambitions aren't stopping at the city line. Momentum is building for a regional rail connection between Phoenix and Tucson, Arizona's two largest cities. If realized, this corridor could become a game changer, giving millions a viable, sustainable alternative to the drive down I-10. We'll dig deeper into that project in the next section. But before we do, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you stay up to date on the latest in rail and infrastructure across the U.S. and beyond.
Amtrak train line connecting Phoenix to Tucson is a little closer to becoming a reality.
For the first time in over 2 decades, Amtrak is seriously working to bring passenger trains back to Phoenix. The city lost its direct rail service back in 1996, when Amtrak's Sunset Limited was rerouted to Maricopa, leaving Phoenix remarkably as the largest U.S. city without an Amtrak stop. But that could soon change. The idea of restoring service between Phoenix and Tucson started gaining traction in 2015. The concept was simple but impactful. 3 daily round-trip trains, each taking about 2 hours and 25 minutes. Instead of laying entirely new track, the proposed route would run along existing Union Pacific freight rail lines. It's a smart use of infrastructure, avoiding major new construction while helping relieve congestion on Interstate 10, one of Arizona's most heavily traveled corridors. Things picked up speed in December 2023. That's when the Federal Railroad Administration awarded a $500,000 grant through its Corridor Identification and Development Program, officially kicking off Phase 1 of the planning process. Arizona's Department of Transportation began mapping out the project's scope, drafting a timeline, and building out a $10.6 million planning budget. This early phase also laid the groundwork for future steps, getting agencies aligned, engaging stakeholders, and preparing for public outreach and environmental review. All of this is leading toward a detailed service development plan, which will guide not just the technical layout and operations of the line, but also its long-term funding strategy. As part of federal funding rules, Arizona must put up 20% of the project's total cost, and the state is stepping up. Governor Katie Hobbs committed $3.5 million to support the planning phase, an early but clear signal of political and financial support. Bringing Amtrak back to Phoenix isn't just about trains, it's about reconnecting Arizona's 2 biggest cities and laying the foundation for a more balanced, forward-looking transportation network. So on June 24th, 2025, Arizona's long-awaited push to reconnect Phoenix and Tucson by rail took a major leap forward. The Arizona Department of Transportation, ADOT, announced that the Federal Railroad Administration has officially approved its initial plans under the Corridor Identification and Development Program, or CID for short. This includes the proposed scope, schedule, and budget for creating a full service development plan. In practical terms, this means step one is done, and once a new federal grant comes through, expected in the coming weeks, Arizona can move straight into the next phase. So, what comes next? ADOT is gearing up for Step 2 of the CID. That phase will begin as soon as the next round of federal funding is locked in. Over the next 2 to 3 years, planners and engineers will dig into the details, mapping out potential station sites, forecasting ridership, demand, and studying land use and environmental factors along the route. The team will also begin crunching numbers for construction and long-term maintenance costs. This milestone is more than just paperwork. It marks the first real progress toward restoring passenger rail between the state's two largest metro areas in decades. The proposed corridor would cover about 158 to 160 miles, starting in Buckeye on the western edge of the Phoenix Metro and running to downtown Tucson. In a region where I-10 is constantly clogged, this line could offer a much-needed alternative that's faster, more reliable, and far more sustainable. This isn't just about trains. It's about shaping how people move across Arizona in the decades ahead. Do you think this project will come to life? Drop a 1 if you agree, and 0 if you don't. Even with the Phoenix-Tucson Rail project advancing into Step 2 of the CID, significant challenges remain. Most notably, there's still no dedicated funding in place to build the line, but state officials are clear. This stage is about laying the groundwork, figuring out the logistics, partnerships, and investment strategy to turn the vision into a reality. As ADOT Director Jennifer Toth put it, "We see passenger rail connecting Phoenix and Tucson as an important option for Arizona." She emphasized that the project isn't just about convenience. It could drive economic growth, support job creation, and offer better travel options for families and smaller communities along the route. If this phase goes smoothly, the next step will involve early engineering work and environmental studies. That's where the big questions start getting answered: how the line will be built, where exactly stations will go, and what construction will look like on the ground. It's a long process, no doubt. But for many Arizonans, this project feels like a rare and overdue chance to finally rethink how people move around the state. Public reaction, especially on platforms like Reddit, reflects a mix of excitement, hope, and growing impatience. Many residents see the potential. Tucson commuters talked about the relief of skipping I-10 traffic. Parents of college students at the University of Arizona mentioned how useful it would be for students who don't have cars. Others expressed a preference for Amtrak running the line rather than a private operator, citing greater trust in the national rail carrier. Comments ranged from simple enthusiasm, "This is awesome," to more heartfelt anticipation, like one user who wrote, "So, looking forward to this, hopefully, being completed." But the optimism is tempered by frustration. Critics are quick to point out that the idea has been floating around since at least 2015, and nearly a decade later, there's still no construction in sight. Some worry that trains might not be running until 2035. For many, the slow pace reinforces broader concerns about inefficiency in government-led infrastructure projects. One user vented, "The government is so useless and inefficient," while others compared Arizona's lagging progress to what they've seen abroad. One commenter in Germany called the situation a crime, and another referenced Japan's world-class rail network as a reminder of what's possible and what's missing here. The sentiment is clear. Arizona needs a smarter, more connected transportation future. The question now is whether the state can keep building on this momentum before public enthusiasm turns into resignation. For a long time, taking the train in Virginia felt like a bit of a gamble. Unpredictable delays, cramped cars, and limited departure times made it a less than ideal choice for many travelers. But that's been changing fast. Virginia is now being recognized as a national model for successful passenger rail. And just recently, the Old Dominion state made a bold new move that's turning heads in Washington. So what exactly did Virginia do? Let's break it down in today's episode of Great Trainspeed.
Amtrak of Virginia set a new ridership record.
Virginia's train service system is one of the most active and rapidly expanding in the southeastern U.S., thanks in large part to the State Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, VPRA. Intercity routes like Amtrak's Northeast Regional provide frequent service along the busy Washington, D.C. Richmond corridor and down to Norfolk, Newport News, and Roanoke. Virginia's state-supported Amtrak services have seen a major surge in ridership, signaling a strong shift toward rail travel for regional trips. A standout example is the Northeast Regional extension to Roanoke, which became profitable even without factoring in subsidies, proof of the high demand for the service. In fiscal year 2024, 1.4 million riders used Virginia's 4 Amtrak routes, up 4.3% from the previous year and a remarkable 45% above pre-pandemic levels. Key stations like Richmond Staples Mill, Alexandria, and Norfolk led the way, with Route 50, Norfolk, D.C., emerging as the busiest, hitting 515,000 passengers. Other routes like Newport News, D.C. and Roanoke, D.C. also posted steady gains. With strong year-over-year growth across the board, Virginia is quickly becoming a model for how states can boost passenger rail, with leaders calling it a sign that more people are choosing trains as a convenient and sustainable option. To keep up with rising demand for passenger rail, Virginia is moving full speed ahead with a number of major rail upgrades. One of the biggest is the $2.3 billion Long Bridge project, which officially broke ground in October 2024. This effort tackles a long-standing bottleneck between Arlington and Washington, D.C. by adding a brand new 2-track bridge dedicated solely to passenger trains over the Potomac River. Backed by both federal and state funding, the new bridge is expected to double capacity and pave the way for more frequent Amtrak Virginia service by 2030. Another key milestone came in August 2024 with the opening of the Newport News Transportation Center, a $47 million intermodal hub that replaces an older Amtrak station. The new facility brings improved accessibility, upgraded passenger amenities, and better connections throughout the Hampton Roads region. And over at Quantico Station, a $27.5 million renovation is underway as part of a broader push to expand capacity along the Fredericksburg line. That project includes a new 3rd track and ADA-compliant pedestrian access, making the station more reliable for everyday commuters and military travelers alike. Together, these efforts highlight Virginia's focused investment in a faster, more connected rail system. But that's not enough. Virginia has stepped up in a bigger way, and just recently, state officials dropped a major announcement that's getting people talking. So what's this all about? We'll dig into that next, but before we do, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any updates from the world of trains.
Well, the Commonwealth Transportation Board has approved a 6-year plan investing over $7 billion.
So, what's the deal with Virginia's new $7 billion transportation plan? At first glance, the title, 6-Year Improvement Program, might sound a bit vague or even misleading. But here's what it's really about. The 6-Year Improvement Program is Virginia's annual funding roadmap for transportation. It's managed by both the Virginia Department of Transportation and the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, and it helps fund everything from freight rail to public transit systems across the state. Each project funded through the program goes through a scoring and evaluation process being handled before getting final approval from the Commonwealth Transportation Board. Now, where does the money come from? Funding levels are based on formulas written into state law, and local governments apply to get their individual projects included. This year's plan puts a strong focus on cleaner transportation, investing in low and no emission buses, for example, to help cut down on carbon emissions. It also aims to relieve highway congestion and improve access in both rural and urban areas. What's especially notable is that this plan moved forward during a period of serious belt tightening at the federal level. In early 2025, the Trump administration and Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency announced plans to cut over $1 trillion in what they considered wasteful government spending. Programs related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, including those tied to transportation, were among the first targets. In January, things got even more tense when an executive order directed federal agencies, including the Department of Transportation, to freeze millions in infrastructure funding. That included money tied to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, clean energy initiatives, and electric vehicle programs, creating widespread concern across the country. But despite all that, this project got the green light. That says a lot about how important it is, not just for Virginia, but as part of a larger national conversation about rail, transit, and future-ready infrastructure. Virginia is making a serious commitment to rail with a multi-year plan running through 2031 that puts billions toward modernizing its transportation system. A major part of that is the Transforming Rail in Virginia initiative, which is getting around $1.7 billion to expand passenger rail by acquiring and developing key lines. The goal is to boost service capacity, ease congestion in busy urban corridors, and improve regional connections, all while supporting the state's economic and environmental goals. Nearly $2.4 billion is also going to D.C. Metro to improve transit across the D.C. region, while Virginia Railway Express, VRE, is set to receive $110 million to upgrade its operations and reliability for daily commuters. Another $63.6 million will support rail preservation and freight planning through the Department of Rail and Public Transportation. For fiscal year 2026 specifically, the plan includes $442 million for D.C. Metro, $17 million for VRE, $20.3 million for the Department of Rail and Public Transportation initiatives, and $245.3 million for the next stage of the Transforming Rail program. Altogether, these investments show Virginia's strong push to build a more connected, efficient, and sustainable rail system for the future. With such a large investment, this plan has definitely caught the attention of local residents. So, what's it all about? And more importantly, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion means a lot to us and helps shape future content on this channel. Local residents have responded with enthusiasm and high hopes to Virginia's ambitious new $7 billion transportation plan, especially in regions like Roanoke that have long felt overlooked. For many, the investment is seen not just as a transportation upgrade, but as a statement that the state is finally listening to their needs. Amy Astardi, a Roanoke resident and regular Amtrak rider, shared her excitement about the changes. "We are so ready for infrastructural change here in Roanoke," she said. "If you've ridden in the Amtrak, you've seen the other stations, and then you get to Roanoke, and it's sort of like, wow, we have a platform." While grateful for the existing service, Astart pointed out a persistent issue. Roanoke's station platform is fully exposed to the elements, making travel uncomfortable in bad weather. She hopes the new plan will finally address that and bring Roanoke's facilities up to par with the rest of the system. Other residents and frequent visitors echoed similar hopes. Parking is always a problem. It would be great to have an option to maybe park outside the city and ride a train in. It can definitely open up other options and avenues for me to explore the city a bit more. So, there you have it. If Virginia can pull this off, it might just light a fire under other states. As always, thanks for riding with us on Great Train Speed.